Yeah, we ain't heard that about a million times. Brian McKnight's One Last Cry, which is the rally/battle call / end of it all call by 9 to noon in certain scenarios. All right, 3-2. And yesterday was one of those scenarios where the Minnesota Vikings got bounced from the postseason by the Los Angeles Rams. Good morning. It's Paul Allen by your side, offering up the therapeutic Davenport of love today. And we're going to do so about 30 minutes from now at 800-320-5326. I know we don't take calls often. Yours truly wants to talk to you today. And have you talked to me more so than somebody spitballing something positive or negative? We react and we move on and the machine continues. Excuse me, I'm looking forward to chatting with people today. I'm not choked up. All right. Brian McKnight choked me up a little bit, but this is wear and tear on the old vocal cords. And here we are at 9 o'clock. Good morning. Eric Nordquist with the excellent and superb work as master mixer of the Monday morning montage on a Tuesday.
You know, the problem with that song, PA, is it's becoming almost too formulaic, where I'm becoming way too familiar with the song. I'm becoming too familiar with One Last Cry and, I wonder when this chorus hits and how the song flows. No, actually, I know it really well. No, actually, it does not take me a ton of time to assemble that montage. Mm-hmm. Back on our feet again. All we do is win, win, win. Yeah. Those sorts of things, that might require a little more effort and duty and focus than, sadly, Brian McKnight's One Last Cry, because it's becoming all too familiar to me as a Vikings-loving sports fan. Now,
you know that you've done something or offered something or played something frequently when we get into our album storage, because all of our montages are actually played off albums. And when you pull out a Brian McKnight's greatest hits, you notice a couple of things. One, it should have been Brian McKnight's greatest hit. I always love that one. I don't really know where to find the other 9 songs. But secondly, you don't have to blow dust off of it. It's not a dusty. It doesn't have, it has so much wear and tear on it from being played 9 to noon that you got to worry about the scratches and everything because the needle's down on it so frequently, including this morning after the Rams. I think it's fair to say the Los Angeles Rams dismantled the Minnesota Vikings yesterday.
Yep.
But think about this. 2 weeks ago, they carried and paraded Darnold around the locker room after beating Green Bay. And now, if you franchise tag him with the intent to trade him, you might get laughed out of the chat. I mean, we're 2 weeks removed from, for he's a jolly good fellow, for he's a jolly good fellow, for he's a jolly good fellow that nobody can deny. 99 bottles of beer on the wall, 99 bottles of beer. 2 weeks ago, they closed on 9 consecutive wins, and now it's wine consecutive nothings, as in WHINE, dead. Dead, like that.
Yeah.
Outclassed and smashed by teams that bullied the Minnesota Vikings. And all of this comes with due respect. You know, there were facets like Jim Peterson, the ever altruistic analyst for the vast and ever expanding Minnesota Timberwolves television network, Grady by his side. He had a tweet last night that I caught when we got back from Arizona that was just like, hey, thanks for the memories. Wonderful, wonderful season. Games were great. Games were super exciting. Skull purple. Right. That's accurate. That's accurate. But it's accurate once you regain consciousness from the metaphorical 2x4 hitting you in your forehead. Oh, wait, that was after the Lions game. It's prescient and it's palpable and it's in play after you gain consciousness from being hit by a cinder block that fell from the sky and just like hit you over top of the head going, wow. After all that, this? I mean, that to a certain extent was the Darnold game at Detroit, and it also to a certain extent was last night at State Farm Stadium, where the Vikings lost to the LA Rams, who advanced to Philadelphia to take on the Eagles next week. It just ended with two that had some head scratching to it that requires something in Brian McKnight, one last cry-like fashion. 9 to noon is far too accustomed to doing around this time of January, or maybe even a week previous, and that's unpacking the context of the who, what, where, when, and why. I mean, looking back, looking at the now, and then looking forward. And 9 to noon we've just become far too accustomed doing that at this time of the year. And outclassed and smashed by teams that bullied the Minnesota Vikings is a fair way to put it. And that's with all due respect over the last two. I mean, it's street fight stuff, and we were on the wrong side of the nunchucks. The Rams defense, when I wrote this, I didn't think it out that much because I was tired. So if quick twitch, if something hits you here that you think I'm missing, then by all means, jump in here. The con. The Rams defense is the best we've seen all season, and we scored 3 touchdowns against them the entire season. I think at the end of the equation, looking at where they were week 8, all right, now, like I told you yesterday in this very segment, and it was just in passing, they are better than they were when we saw them week 8.
Yeah.
And that's a testament to what they do. When I say what they do, it's an organizational. So what do? Well, they don't let things linger. They will have problems, and they may be game after game after game, but then they fix them, and they're not required to be fixed again. So they get some players healthy. Getting their left guard back, Stephen Avila, was a very, very underrated piece of inclusion for the LA Rams. And people are like, Stephen Avila, yeah, we're happy for you. He's a left guard. All right. I mean, it's, I would imagine, on Fan Line last night.
Are you kidding me?
Or we're going to, the right guard, the left guard, the guard situation, the interior, the Minnesota Vikings offensive line.
I always love that one.
They matter. And when there is a no tomorrow scenario and you're able to put somebody in there you like more than somebody else and they come through, it matters. So it's in watching their Arizona game 2 games ago and their Buffalo Bills game, the Rams, that there were 2 polarizing things that were eye-opening to me into the game, then they came to fruition. The fact that these kids, Cam Kinchins, the rookie Kane, Jalen McCullough, a rookie safety. Then you have the second-year guy, Kobe Durant, Kobe Turner. And then you have Byron Young, the cat who wears 0, face mask guy. And then the Florida State rookies, Inverse and Fisk. And, that's how it's supposed to work when you draft talented high-enders. They get better as the season moves on. And one thing that I felt was that I underrated dramatically into this game was the fact that, and we mentioned it, but I mean, I think I should have elevated it within my heart when it comes to what matters most and why. Sean McVay giving more than a handful of Rams, in fact, more than half of his starting offense and defense, a week off and not playing in that Seattle game. They were so fresh last night, and they just fired out of the gate, doing that 6 furlongs and 108-4, and here they are. And when McVay was asked, basically it was put to him like this: well, I mean, you do know if you lose this game, you're going to either get a 14-win Vikings team or a 14-win Lions team. And McVay, he didn't speak like the leader of Rube Nation and be like, well, why am I going to trip on that? I mean, I know we lost to the Lions earlier this season, but we had them beat 19 different ways, and we're better now than we were then, and the other team we already beat. So that's just, I know what he felt. He wasn't scared of either of those teams or really anybody in the postseason. And he recognized, with my players' legs and minds, discretion is the better part of valor here. And they need rest. They're tired. And we are relying on about 8 of these guys that if we can get them fresh, we might be able to make one big run while others experience one last cry. And I underrated that into the game. I guess I wasn't thinking about it too much, but they were super fresh and super fired up. Specifically, what I think is the best defense the Minnesota Vikings faced all season. A team with an identity of high-end offense, that would be the Minnesota Vikings. I mean, you got Sam Darnold throwing more 25-yard completions than any quarterback in the NFL. You got one receiver with 10 touchdowns. You got another receiver with 9 receiving and 1 rushing touchdown. You're going to put your game-changing tight end on a touchdown during the evening. And those have some high-end numbers to them. And so the identity is that of high-end offense. And again, with all due respect, it just cannot go 21 consecutive possessions sans a touchdown. I just can't. I mean, back to Cam Akers catching a touchdown with 51 seconds to go in the third quarter against the Green Bay Packers. I mean, that was absolutely astounding.
That's where I would lean on kind of the idea you're talking. And I think that their defense in the moment, that became the toughest challenge the Vikings have faced all season because of that speed, because they were fresh. There were a lot of variables in the mix. But you mentioned that the possessions, this going back through, of course, the Lions game as well. You know, statistically, you can just kind of pick box scores and rankings. I have a hard time putting the Rams in that spot as being the best defense that we've faced all year, because in some ways I think we'd be giving the Rams too much credit for the deficiencies that we saw over the last 2 games.
No doubt.
And eventually, and there's plenty of time to get to it, it's going to be specific to that quarterback spot, what went right, what went woefully wrong. And so, but that, the speed of Verse and Kobe Turner on the inside at times, 1v1 with Reisner, winning every single play. Neville Gallimore, I don't know if he has 10 sacks in his career. He had like 2 sacks last night. They just kept coming, and that in combination with the quarterback, I don't know if it was Stickum on his hand with that ball last night, but 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000. Suddenly it's 7 1,000, and he's hitting the turf. It was ugly, man.
This next patch comes. It comes with nothing personal. It's business. But I was thinking about it on the flight back last night because, I think there are 23 or 24 unrestricted free agents the Minnesota Vikings have. Now, there are some quite prominent and familiar names as we go around here. And, then you also have in the neighborhood, I think, of $80 million under the cap. That can be finagled. You have the draft, but I think we have a super special 4 picks there, compensatories aside. So that obviously all is coming at us on a One Last Cry Tuesday, where it's not like we're going to go through every single unrestricted free agent at this moment and try to determine who's the best fit and why for the Minnesota Vikings moving forward, given they have the cash that they have. But there's a name that I'm going to drop later, and I'm going to respectfully ask for a working cell phone number for this individual, and then go through the rigmarole of, hey, given I'm not a W-2 team employee of the Minnesota Vikings, is it cool if I get this guy's number and I just call him? I know he's got a game coming up this weekend, but I just like to call him and see what he's doing.
Just get the process started.
So this, again, nothing personal. This is business, unrestricted free agents, and the emotional quick twitch. Emphasis on the word emotional, because that's who I am. That's what that was when it was written, and that's what this is. So it's just going to be a name and gone, or a name and returns. And if there is anything that requires a why, Lord knows, on a One Last Cry Tuesday, we have plenty of time to unpack, identify, and weave our way through the, let's say, Aaron Jones, gone.
Yeah.
Aaron Jones, gone.
Yep.
Cam Akers, returns.
Yep.
Cam Bynum, gone. Byron Murphy Jr., probably gone due to price, and I hope that's not the case.
Well, those 2 in a row, Bynum and Murphy, I look at those 2 guys specifically from a cost standpoint. those might be the most significantly priced free agents coming up here in a couple of months for Kwesi.
Right. And see that, our
entire secondary, except for Metellus, who's got 1 year left.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to play back. I mean, it's emotional, but tremendous work that Lieber did with his Harrison Smith interview. Metellus has 1 year left, and Harrison Smith is on the Willie Woney track. Mm-hmm. Other than that, Shaq Griffin, Gilmore, Murphy, as you mentioned, almost our entire back end is upcoming into free agency.
Byron Murphy Jr., like I said, I mean, I really, really hope there's a way to get him back on the team. Now, what a season he had. Shaq Griffin, gone. Stephon Gilmore, gone.
Yeah.
Johnny Munt returns.
Mm-hmm.
Trent Sherfield Sr. returns. Sam Darnold, gone.
Yep.
Cam Robinson, gone. Dalton Reisner, gone. There are more names, but those are just the ones that I wanted to drop in there now.
Yeah, I like that. And, at some point I would, and they're talkers galore. I get that on a Tuesday in which our season's over. Cam Robinson's interesting to me only because I want to know more about where Christian Darrisaw is at.
I thought you were
going to process looks like.
When I thought Cam Robinson last night, I thought you just were going to say what I thought for about 3 seconds. Not that the minds have to be in unison and or lockstep, specifically when our hearts are. First thing I thought was Cam Robinson, can he play guard? And I'm not messing with you. I mean, he's big.
That's interesting.
He's big. He's a people mover. And that's like, again, we have a lot of time.
Yeah.
On a One Last Cry Tuesday, through up to the scouting combine and free agency and all that to slice and dice our way through all things. That's why this is the emotional quick twitch from your emotional announcer. And good morning.
Were you able to hear the totality of head coach's post-game last night?
Yeah, well, that's why I requested here in the opening segment that we play back Ben Lieber with Harrison Smith. Because after I got done with the Vikings postgame report podcast for Vikings.com that Ben Lieber and that Pete Bursich and I do after each game, I zipped down to the locker room, and I saw the director of dispute, the game management coordinator Ryan Cordell, walk out. Mike Pettin, associate head coach, outside linebackers coach, walk out.
Yeah,
and I'm like, wow, damn! I mean, they're getting out here fast. Did I miss everything? Well, the media, the scribes, the columnists, Jim Suhan, they were all still outside the locker room. So they're, knowing people who are in the locker room, like when O'Connell does the pacing back and forth and celebratory post-game preaches and speeches and things like that. Usually then they'll open the doors and in comes everybody. But that wasn't the case yesterday, and after chatting with a few people, there were so many tears in that locker room right before I got in there. I was told that I don't want to weeping and like shoulders going up and down. That may be a little bit of a stretch, but the sadness in that locker room yesterday, after a One Last Cry Monday, it definitely resonated and was not lost on me, specifically with Joshua Metellus, man. He was all shaken up after the game. But I walked up, I saw Ben Lieber interviewing Harrison Smith, and Hawkey kind of gave me like, he didn't want to disrupt the interview. He kind of gave me like his hand, like, come here. And so I went and stood next to it. And I heard Harrison start to get into quite the emotional response to something, but then the head of security, Dave Corris, and Kevin O'Connell were starting to head over to the press conference. So I go to so many Kevin O'Connell press conferences. I didn't want to miss the One Last Cry one.
Yeah.
So I went over there and I missed the end of the Harrison Smith interview. That's why I want to hear it back. And if you missed it because it was late last night on KFAN right before Fan Line, I purposely didn't listen to it because I want all of us to enjoy it together. And the question would be, what's next for our beloved Hitman?
Yeah.
It's a perplexing situation for that young man. Then I hear Jonathan Grenard as I'm driving in this morning, Ben Lieber with just excellent interviews after the game last night. I didn't even know he chatted with Jonathan Grenard. And then Grenard's talking about Harrison Smith and the fact there was a galvanizing as this thing went on, man. This guy's so well respected and so well loved in this locker room and by the coaches and by the fan base. We wanted to win the whole thing for Harrison. We want, just in case that's it. He stayed with the same team all of his career. He's been a bastion of excellence and a fringe Hall of Fame type player. He's Vikings immortality, and Grenard really opened a vein on that. And that was moving, listening to that this morning. As was Harrison Smith with Ben Lieber last evening. And here's what he shared with Ben after a One Last Cry Monday.
All right, everybody, this is going to be potentially a tough one. I'm standing right next to Harrison Smith. And, it's hard not to notice walking in this pretty emotional locker room, you specifically making sure that you talk to everybody, every single player, offense, defense, training staff, coaches, spending time letting everybody know how much you appreciate them. Why is it important for you to do that on this particular game?
There's a lot that goes into this. It's not strictly players. And I just want to give my thanks to everybody that makes it go. Obviously wish we could have had a better result here today, but it's a tough pill to swallow right now, but it's been one of the most fun teams I've ever played on at any level. And there's a lot to be said about this group. And I really just wish I had a couple more weeks with them, to be honest.
When did you know that this defensive unit was special?
I thought we had a chance pretty early. You never know till the lights come on. But it was pretty early. And I wish we could have done a little more today. But this group enjoyed playing with each other and playing for each other. And that's what defense is about. It's also about winning. So, last game of the year, it's tough. It's tough to wrap your mind around it all, but the competitive spirit of this group is very high. And obviously wish we could have had a better result today.
When you think about Brian Flores and what he's done schematically and to get the best out of you, what are some of the things that you appreciate about his leadership?
I would say there's a lot. His consistency, his clarity, his creativity, his willingness to try things that I have not experienced in the game of football. To do that at this level it's harder than just saying that. You gotta let them hang a little bit, and I appreciate that approach. And we had a lot of success with it. Probably could have done more, but I would say as you get older and you're playing, it's tough to enjoy every day because things might not always feel as good as they used to, but just the amount of joy and fun I had this year working with our staff and with our players, the all-time high.
What do you think the future holds for you?
I don't know. I'll probably chill out for a little bit. We'll figure that out down the road.
Do you have any sort of timeline on when you want to make any decision on anything?
Not really. I haven't wanted to think about it, kind of selfishly, just live in the moment. And I'm kind of still in that moment, so it'll come when it comes.
Well, whether it comes this offseason or it comes a few years from now, I just want to say thank you for myself and all the Vikings fans out there. You're one of one, and we all love you and appreciate you.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
Holy cow.
Appreciate Vikings Nation, everything they've always meant to me, so thank you.
Well, I was told that was jarring, and it was all caps, Jarring. Yeah. I mean, you talk about cracking the uncrackable, putting fatigue on the indefatigable. I mean, Nacho Libre got choked up.
Yeah.
Doing the drive-by. Wow. Great job by Ben Lieber, not only on the sidelines analyzing the games, but with those post-game interviews. And the Grenard one I said was fantastic, and it was trumped by Harrison Smith. And those pointed questions and a couple of guys who really respect each other, just opening veins about something that, something that it zapped me. I mean, I really, really like being around this team. All the new players, Andrew Van Ginkel, Jonathan Grenard, Blake Cashman, Aaron Jones, getting to know Stephon Gilmore and the awkward moment I had with him in an elevator in New Jersey, having never spoken to him, and now he's on the team, and knowing that all these kids check out social media and the way he's kind of side-eyeing me in the elevator. He probably heard a million times some things that I said during the comeback against the Indianapolis Colts, and then now we're in an elevator for 10 floors and we're not speaking to each other, and he can't figure out how to get his card key to mesh with the button for his floor, and I go, let me help you. And then I do it for him, and the elevator door opens, and he stops and turns around and says, thank you, Paul.
I always love that one.
And I'm like, he knows my name. He knows who I am. He heard it. He had to have heard it, the Jefferson Gilmore thing.
Yeah, throw him out of the game.
Then the next the next morning on the sideline before the Giants game, I come up and I apologize to him. I should introduce myself to you in that elevator and, welcome to the team and stuff like that. And then yesterday, I'm chatting with Stephon Gilmore's son for like 3 minutes in the lobby of the Grand Hyatt Scottsdale. So it's things like that, at least for yours truly, in common thread fashion, that either define, how much I really appreciate being around those people and those players and coaches and stuff like that. And man, this was a wonderful, wonderful group and a wonderful, wonderful year that had a splat to it at the end for fans, for announcers, for sideline analysts. And you could hear in Ben's voice in chatting with Harrison Smith, that encapsulated the way a lot of family members, extended family members, or those who go on the grind and sweat this thing because they enjoy it, felt. Now that it's over, and it's over like that, and it's so crazy and zany that it's over like that. So sorry to be so negatory with some of the commentary in the opening segment, but magical seasons like this one just cannot splat as if it fell face first from a 50-story high-rise. And there's much more to get into during the course of today's show. Once again, we are going to take some phone calls. I'm leaving at 11 o'clock. And before that, Paul Charchian, Guillotine Leagues, Friday Football Feast joins at 10. Pete Bursich, the analyst, joins at 10:35. Lavelli Neal III, the columnist for the Stribbies, here at 11 o'clock with Nordo. But there are some things into which I would like to dive next segment and during the time that I'm here today. I'm back with everybody tomorrow. But call us and just share what's on your mind right now. And you can just unfurl what's in your heart about this distraction factor known as Minnesota Vikings. Vikings football being something on which you rely to distract you and us from things in our lives. And we love it. And now it's done for the 2024. 800-320-5326. 800-320-5326. Of course, we have the talkback machine via the free iHeartRadio app. 30 seconds there if you are so inclined. Thank you, TimberTech. Thank you, TimberTech.com for What's on Deck 9 to Noon. Thank you, Mr. Eric Nordquist, for the impeccable One Last Cry montage. And most importantly, thanks to everybody for listening to 9 to Noon and KFAN and those Vikings games when you do, here at FM 100.3 KFAN. I'm Paul Allen, and we'll be right back.
And before we pause, the fan does indeed want to give you a chance to put $1,000 in your hand with the National Cash Contest. All you got to do, go to KFAN.com, enter the keyword PAY, P-A-Y, pay, and you might get paid as in $1,000. The keyword is PAY at KFAN.com.
Now, here we are at 9:38 at FM 100.3 KFAN. Thanks for calling. We got a bunch of them, and we're going to take as many as we can over the next couple of segments up to the Friday Football Feast co-host, Paul Charchian, joining 9 to noon at about 10:03. And, you know, just to land the plane for this portion of the equation, spitballing a bunch of different things, and that's just kind of what we and fans do in metaphorical water cooler radio. It's like, what happened to Sam? Hey, I wonder what JJ thinks. Here's that interview with Harry and Nacho. They both were really sad. I wonder if Harrison Smith's going to be back. Andrew Van Ginkel, who knew? Heard the name, had no idea he was that good. It's a spitballing Tuesday on a One Last Cry Monday, and here we are. The Minnesota Vikings lost all 4 games to the Lions and Rams, and both those teams absolutely can get to the winner's circle, known as the Super Bowl. Absolutely.
Yeah.
The LA Rams are going the right way in a hurry, and their coaching staff, and specifically their head coach, are just so good at what they do that if their defense plays the way it played last night, and if Stafford can stay poised, and they get the right players involved, which would include Puka Nacua
till you're satisfied.
Whatever it is. But see, that's the rub. We lost to the Lions and Rams, who, yes, can get to the Super Bowl. And the rub is, one is in our division, and the other has the fastest, youngest, most up-and-coming defense in the game. So the rub is, sure, you went 0-4 against them, but they ain't going anywhere. Now, the Rams have a tricky situation with Matthew Stafford, who's 37 years of age. And Matthew ain't great, okay? Matthew has been great. Matthew ain't great right now. Matthew hasn't been great for about a month and a half. In the Bills game, in the second half, Matthew Stafford was great. But old people get a little creaky sometimes. Old people are trying to get to the finish line and get the second ring. Matthew's smart. I got a lot of respect for him. He's one of the toughest players I've ever come across in my years calling Minnesota Vikings football. I love Matthew Stafford, but he's lost some on his fastball. Mentally, he still sees it clearly and sees it the same way, but he's right at the end.
So is there an element to that, PA, where you kind of tip your cap to McVay and what he's been able to do around him?
Big time.
To continue that, where he's limiting the mistakes. We were talking about it into the game yesterday, where 7 of his last 10 games, going back to the Minnesota game, week 8, 7 of those 10 games, he was not sacked at all. So the combination of the quick game that we were on the wrong side of week 8 to the protection, getting Steve Avila, you mentioned that, damn good left guard, I think TCU cat from a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And the ability.
Higbee too.
And Higbee getting healthy.
Yeah. I mean, he had 58 yards in the first quarter.
And so we were in a spot this year where we were able to praise ourselves. Cashman's out for a few weeks, comes back, gets healthy. Ivan Pace goes to IR, comes back, gets healthy. We go into this game last night, maybe one of the healthiest teams in the playoffs, where all of our preferred starters, except for Christian Darrisaw, were available last night. But what McVay has been able to do with maybe the inadequacies and the aging of Matthew Stafford, nothing short of remarkable, and that is Nacua till you're satisfied. And that quick game and working with Kyron and all of that, it's been really impressive.
But see, what the rub is, and I heard O'Connell say this after the game, reminding here were where the losses came from. These two teams. And they're both very good. Right. But the rub is the Lions ain't going anywhere. No. I mean, they have the quarterback, they have the 2 running backs, they have the right receivers. They defensively, when they get them healthy, they ain't going anywhere.
Yep.
And the Rams ain't going anywhere either. But you got that quarterback situation they'll be facing here in the very near future think Harrison Smith, think Matthew Stafford. Stafford came into the game in 2009, Hitman in 2012. So this could be Matthew's last season. If that's the case, well, they're going to have to work around something for a little bit, raise somebody new. But look at what they have around the individual. So the foresight they've had, knowing that day is coming, that the Super Bowl winning quarterback's going to leave, we feel we're going to fortify it enough as we raise a young quarterback. So those two ain't going anywhere. But here's the bit. So they finished 14-4, and you know, it's being a racetrack raised guy. The class of the competition matters a lot to me. And I'm not going to qualify some of these teams as $5,000 claimers at Thistledown in Cleveland, or Kentucky Derby winners, or Breeders' Cup Classic winners, or somebody wins the Arc de Triomphe in France. But I think you'll understand what I'm saying here when it's 14-4. We swept the AFC South. Cool. All right. I know the Texans won over the weekend. Good luck with Herbert in the postseason the rest of your life. We swept the AFC South. We swept the Bears.
Yeah.
Okay. Swept Green Bay. Sweet. I mean, they got bounced.
Right.
And they can't possibly trust their quarterback in big spots, and unlike the others in the division, have him on an absurd player-friendly deal. So there's that. Arizona. The Cards are so good, two teams got to use their stadium in the playoffs because they didn't make it. They beat Seattle, a middling squad. They killed Atlanta, which ended up being awful. The Jets, that bunch stinks. You get the bit. The Vikings beat two teams that made the playoffs, so that has to factor into the equation when you're looking at the level of class of the teams you beat or lack thereof. Now, finally, before the phone calls, because we promised, and we care about you, and you assumedly care about us. The quarterback room next year, I predict, at this stage, with the right to change it multiple times in the offseason, the quarterback room, I believe, will be J.J. McCarthy, Daniel Jones, and Brett Rippon.
Oh my gosh. Can you more about that?
So we'll leave that right there, and we'll move into the offseason together, won't we? Kyle, it's Paul Allen. Good morning.
How are you, PA?
Hey, what's up, man? How you doing?
Good. Appreciate the Vine. Just wanted to, bring some optimism to the end of the year here. We got J.J. McCarthy on tap. I think we're going to be good to go next year. We weren't supposed to be good this year. So, let's take a win for 2024 and, roll hard into 2025 with J.J. Mack.
Amen. Joe in Worthington, good morning.
Good morning. Say, I would like to have that offensive line, see if they can find a tape of the 98 offensive line. They moved their feet. They protected. We need help with that. If you're beat around the corner, hey, you got to survive. Sam had a tough day, but we also need to show a little heart. Let's get going, get that offensive line moving, and we'll compete again next year.
Thanks, bud. Aaron in Little Canada, good morning.
Hey, Paul. Hey, Nordo. Just hopping on, kind of speaking the same sentiment as Kyle in that I just enjoyed this season because, going into it, I'm only 26, but most Vikings season, I absolutely rube it up. It's so pumped up. And this year I had a little bit more tepid expectations because, we had Darnold. We didn't know what to expect and a lot of new guys. And it was kind of a free year, in my opinion, and just brought a lot of joy and looking forward to JJ next season. And just we got the head coach. We got all the right pieces. So, I'm optimistic.
That's an altruistic approach to things and look at things, and it happens to be factual, and it vibes with my heart too. But nevertheless, it doesn't mean this is your splat. Down we go from 50 floors. Leader, the fan at KFAN.com still doesn't sting. So the in the moment stings, but the altruistic look to the future definitely has some brightness to it, and in polarizing fashion. You're listening to 9 to Noon. All right, these phone calls coming up right now, or actually about a minute and a half from now. And but first, just a couple of quick points that I want to get out there. Because I think their baseline when it comes to where the 2024 Minnesota Vikings are moving forward into the 2025. And I joked about it earlier, but not being a Minnesota Vikings W-2 team employee, I wonder if it's possible for me to secure a working cell phone number for Chiefs soon-to-be free agent guard Trey Smith.
I always love that one.
who's a badass. So that's like immediately moving forward where my mind went. I mean, I cracked open the potential unrestricted or the free agents that won't be signed before free agency and read up a little bit on them last night flying back from the Valley of No Fun. And that's the one that jumped out at me right there. Holy cow. So that's just like where we are now. I'm sure I'm not the first to think that or say that. And then we get to something the head coach said repeatedly the last 2 weeks. And it's, I need to do a better job. Is I can be better there. I need to do a better job. It's not lip service. It's not lip service deflecting attention from others who failed. It is sometimes, and it's age old. So after the Lions game, people are pounding on the quarterback. So therefore coaches and coordinators will say this, and I need to do a better job. And that generally when you say that, you don't get pressed. And this includes me, Tuesdays with Kevin O'Connell, where that when I say that I just love this season, I mean, the implementation of Kevin O'Connell, Justin Jefferson, and Harrison Smith with live mics during preseason games, along with Kevin being with 9 to noon each and every Tuesday for what was scheduled to be 15, 17 minutes, ended up being 25, 30 minutes every single week. Those are career highlights for me because they're consistent and they're fun and people enjoy them and I enjoy them and the coach enjoys them. That all plays into it with this leader, Kevin O'Connell, who I absolutely adore and will stick by what I said at a Friday football feast with Paul Charchi. And I believe the Minnesota Vikings are going to win a Super Bowl with Kevin O'Connell. I don't know when it's going to be. Kind of thought it might get close this year, which it did, but then we had the splat factor. But it's not lip service deflecting attention from those in the covenant who failed. I know he means it, and I wonder what goes into it. And that is a big, overarching talker for the 2025 Minnesota Vikings. That it's like when he says, and I need to do a better job. I don't press him. Nobody presses him. So therefore we don't get the answer. And they never, Kevin or anybody who says something like that, they never come out and say, and I need to do a better job. Like I need to do this on 3rd and 6 or longer, or I need to do this inside the 5, or I need to manage this with 4th downs, or I need to have a better hold of this. Maybe in his season closing press conference, we'll hear a little more. But until we do, it opens the door for those who care like us and follow it the way we do to think, what does he mean?
Yeah.
What does he mean? And it's the details matter, but the overarching viewpoint, it matters more because there are so many plays run during the course of a season, to hammer on like 1, 2, 3 things, that's unfair. But to look at, to decompress and look back at certain facets and to mesh it with, I need to do a better job. I need to do a better job for Sam. I can do a better job there. I think that's fascinating. The vulnerability with it and the sensibility with it and self-awareness. But, there's no answer to it until we're given an answer. And if we're not given an answer, then we get to speculate. And that's what we do at FM 100.3 KFAN. Marty, St. Paul, what's going on there, Marte?
I got a lot of love for you, PA, man. It was tough listening to Fan Line last night because the knee-jerk knocked a lot of our rubes loopy. And I know I might be in the minority on this one, but I want them to bring back Sam Darnold. The man had an epic season. And regardless of how these last 2 plays went, I know they get into the mix when you consider things and the what have you done for me lately scenario, but I love Sam Darnold. I think he had a great season, a tremendous year for the Vikings and for a team that was supposed to be 5 to 6 wins, exceeding expectations like they did. I got a lot of positivity. I hope Harrison Smith comes back. And I don't know if Flores would ever consider this or the whole apparatus, but man, that guy would be an emotional leader. I know he's not real outspoken, but just as an assistant coach or something like that. And I hope I know the whole future's in his hands, but I hope he comes back. And I want to see a lot more positivity and perspective from from the rubes out there, especially the Pitchfork Nation crowd, because and maybe it'll settle in. You know, we're Minnesotans. Maybe it'll settle in. Everybody's angry that we never win a playoff game, Paul. The negativity in this town sucks. You know that. But let's bring it full circle, man. And
Marty,
and
you're
get down
terrific.
on it. And,
Marty, you're
make it
terrific.
good.
Yeah, you have all the KFAN tricks, and you played from the heart. And I'm not going to rule out what you said. I'm not going to say that it's going to happen. But if you formulate the opinion, we put all this time into this reclamation project, and the majority of it was good. And, then what we saw most recently 2 times does not have to be the overarching answer. I'm not mad at that take at all. But then the next step is, if you believe that, what's the cost? And to an aside, I just wonder, these last 2 games for Sam Darnold, a free agent, I mean, those games potentially cost that man $30 million.
Tens of millions of dollars.
Tens of millions is the right way to put it. If you believe it's going to be, a 40-ish on average with the promises and then the yearly take.
His trajectory is really the same Grand Canyon-esque gap between 2 spots of into that Lions game. You could win the division and have the 1 seed, or you're going on the road.
Yeah.
Similarly, Sam Darnold into that game was potentially playing for $100 million guaranteed.
Wow.
And I think that has also drastically changed as we watched the fate of our team last night.
But when they say not only it's a business, but it's an emotional game, which it is.
Sure.
It is. 2 weeks ago, he was elevated on shoulders, and they're all singing, "He's a jolly good fellow, for he's a jolly good fellow."
He's a jolly good fellow.
And now you got an announcer flying over like Nebraska, 2:45 in the morning, crafting. I think our quarterback room next year is going to be McCarthy, Jones, and Rippon.
I always love that one.
How quickly it changes.
Right, but I think I'm going to, I would bet it, but I wouldn't,
I think you're right.
I wouldn't exactly proclaim that's what it is. We'll let it play itself out. But Marty's call was fantastic, and we appreciate your passion, man. Brian in Minneapolis, good morning. Oh, my bad. Here we go. Brian in Minneapolis, good morning.
Good morning, kid. Am I here?
Yeah, we got
you,
B. Yeah, we got you, B. What's up, man?
Yeah, so there's a lot of piling on Sam Darnold this morning, and, deservedly so, but I don't hear a lot of talk, and I appreciate you talking about
let's
KOC.
hold on. Let's pump the brakes, okay? There has not been a lot of piling on Sam Darnold 9 to noon, okay? There hasn't. I mean, we're stating facts about contractual situations. I don't know what the knucklehead factor was like on Fan Line last night. Sadly, I didn't get a chance to listen. But no, I just wanted to get that straight, that this is not your pile-on leader 9 to noon, okay?
Fair point. Yep. I read Suhan's article in the Script this morning, and he was doing some piling on. So it's out there. But the point I wanted to make, PA, is that, there's a lot of talk about Darnold and his role in the failures of the offense last night. You talked about McVay and what he did with his quarterback to make things easier, helped him to succeed. Did KOC do enough of that for Darnold? I watched that Lions game where they brought pressure after pressure, and you saw receivers running deep routes. There was not the quick hitters, the easy outs that Darnold could have hit.
Right.
Did KOC make the adjustments he needed to help Darnold succeed in this game? Because we knew that the Rams were going to imitate exactly what the Lions did in that game. I
think that's a very fair point. And when it comes to the head coach after the Lions and One Last Cry Monday saying, I can be better, I need to do better, stuff like that. It's if you go down the road that O'Connell and or the offensive staff let down Sam Darnold, I would say shame on you. Because Sam Darnold, nobody wanted Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold was not starting for any teams in the NFL until he was given a chance here. And the time and the sweat equity they put into that man to get him to all those touchdowns, the most touchdowns in the history of Minnesota Vikings football for a first-time starter, more than Brett Favre in 2009. Sam came through. The coaching staff and Sam meshed and came through. All right, then the rubber met the road against 2 teams that can go to the Super Bowl, and the tire came up bald, and the whole Darnold Express went off the highway, and it toppled, and it was perilous. So when Kevin says, and I can do a better job, and I'm going to put that on me. That's part of it. And there are details to it, but the overarching part of it plays into what my man just said. It's like, when watching this one back or some others back, it's in certain second and whatever, third and whatever, fourth and whatever. It's meshing what happens with where the players went on the field and why. And that requires time because, they're called hot routes. And of course, the Minnesota Vikings have hot routes for difficult situations. But, they just thinking about Stafford last night in certain situations where, in essence, he knew the rush was going to come at him fast. And he would get it off quickly to somebody, and it either would work or the play would be blown up, but he got it off. And it was complete. So this all plays into what we were talking about that previous segment. And I thought that phone call was terrific. Let's welcome Paul Charchian into the equation when 9 to noon continues at KFAN.